When we think of the Knights Templar, grand images of armored knights with red crosses spring to mind, riding valiantly into battle. This legendary order quickly rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most powerful military and financial entities of the medieval world. They were crowned as the champions of Christendom, protectors of pilgrims, and the very embodiment of Christian knighthood. Yet, beyond the gleaming armor lies a shadow, a darker tale that silently whispers of brutality, ruthlessness, and an unquenchable thirst for power and control. Just as a coin has two sides, the Templars too had their shadowed chapters. Welcome to Uncharted History. Today, we look deep into the Templars' rise and the lesser-known tales that challenge our idealistic view of these medieval warriors. Militarization of faith. Merging faith with the might of a military force has always been a recipe for controversy. Take, for instance, the year 1129, when the Knights Templar received the official endorsement of the Catholic Church at the Council of Troyes. This wasn't just an approval, it was a mandate to create a unique blend of monk and soldier. With this backing, they quickly grew in numbers and strength. By the mid-12th century, they boasted a force of around 300 knights in Jerusalem alone. But here's where the irony thickens. While their commitment was to uphold Christian values and protect pilgrims, they were often found at the forefront of some of the bloodiest battles during the Crusades. Quotes from chroniclers of the time, like William of Tyre, recount instances where Templar knights showed no mercy, even to non-combatants. It's a stark contradiction, an order devoted to peace and spiritual service, yet deeply enmeshed in violent warfare. The very essence of their existence, a fusion of devout faith and martial prowess, posed questions about where religious commitment ended and where the lust for power and control began. The Siege of Ascalon, 1153. Moving forward from the ideological complexities, the Templars' actions in battle often mirrored their fierce dedication. A striking example is the Siege of Ascalon in 1153. As one of the last fortresses under Fatimid control in the region, Ascalon was a secret target. The siege wasn't just a display of military tactics, it was a depiction of the relentless intensity of the Templars. For months, the city's thick walls stood resilient against the Templar forces. However, the Templars, undeterred, employed massive war machines, trebuchets, and battering rams. These weren't just tools, they were giants, capable of hurling projectiles weighing hundreds of pounds. The destructive power of these machines was unparalleled. As they pounded the walls, buildings crumbled, and homes were reduced to rubble. Chroniclers of the time, like William of Tyre, detailed the despair of the civilians. He mentioned that the air grew thick with dust and the screams of the innocent. While the Templars celebrated their eventual victory, for the residents of Ascalon, it was a horrifying ordeal of shattered stones and shattered lives. The city, once a symbol of Fatimid resilience, bore the scars of a siege that showcased the unyielding intensity of the Templars, sometimes at the cost of the very people they vowed to protect. The Massacre at Ayadie, 1191. From the rubble-filled streets of Ascalon, our journey takes us to another defining yet grim chapter in Templar history, the Siege of Acre in 1191. The Templars, alongside other Crusader forces, had laid siege to this strategically important port city, vital for its position and its gateway status to the Holy Land. After grueling months of combat, the walls of Acre fell, leading to the capture of thousands of Muslim soldiers and civilians. These prisoners became pawns in a twisted game of medieval warfare. The aftermath is where the tale turns particularly dark. Richard the Lionheart, driven by strategic calculations and perceived betrayals, made a chilling decision. Nearly 3,000 Muslim prisoners, who might have experienced the norms of chivalry or the chance of ransom, instead faced a horrific fate. On the fateful day of August 20th, on the plains of Ayadie, these captives were led out and brutally executed. It's a moment etched in the pages of history, not just for its sheer brutality, but for the Templars' active role in it. Contemporary sources, such as the chronicler Roger of Hoveden, noted that the Templars and Hospitallers were among the chief executors of this grim act. It serves as a poignant reminder that beneath the Templars' facade of religious fervor lay decisions and deeds that sometimes strayed far from the virtues they professed. Ruthless battle tactics. Battle of Montgisard, 1177. Let's trace back a few years to the desolate fields of Montgisard in 1177, a setting that bore witness to yet another startling example of Templar ferocity. The Battle of Montgisard was more than a mere military engagement. It was a full-on collision of zeal, sword, and survival. When Saladin, Muslim leader, approached with an estimated force of 26,000 soldiers, the Templars, under the leadership of the youthful King Baldwin IV, rallied a markedly smaller army, numbering around 500 knights and several thousand infantry, to stand against him. Despite their numerical disadvantage, the Templars, renowned for their military acumen, staged an audacious attack that managed to throw Saladin's larger forces into disarray. The victory for the Crusaders was astounding, yet the methods employed spoke to a ruthless pursuit of victory at any cost. Chroniclers like Ernul detailed the relentless onslaught, describing the Templars as like iron men who ceaselessly flailed upon their enemies with their swords. Even as the opposing forces waned, the Templars did not relent. Their victory was not marked by chivalry, but by a no-mercy policy, exacting a lethal toll on the remnants of Saladin's forces. In the aftermath, the fields of Montgisard were left scattered with the bodies of the fallen, silently testifying to a victory that was mercilessly fought and harshly won. Tensions and violence against the assassins. Beyond the open battles with prominent Muslim forces, the Templars found themselves embroiled in a shadowy feud with the Nizari Ismailis, more notoriously known as the Assassins. While the Crusaders and Saladin's army were the more publicized adversaries, the Templars and Assassins operated in a realm of intrigue, subterfuge, and covert confrontations. Their relationship was a murky combination of distrust, plots, and counterplots. Instances abound, with sources like the historian Ibn al-Athir recounting tales of assassination attempts against Templar leaders. One particularly infamous episode in the 1190s saw a Templar preceptor of Tyre narrowly escaping death at the hands of a disguised assassin. Such encounters weren't mere anecdotes, but were symbolic of the undercurrent of tension and hostility that existed. But the Templars weren't merely victims. They too retaliated with fervor, orchestrating violent crackdowns against assassin strongholds and operatives. The dangerous encounters between the Templars and the Assassins stands as a prime example of the multifaceted conflicts of the era, where warfare wasn't just about armies clashing in open fields, but also about secretive plots unfolding in the shadows. The dark side of discipline, internal punishments. Moving away from external conflicts, a less explored but equally unsettling aspect of the Templars' legacy lies within their own ranks. The Templars were not just fierce on the battlefield, they were also stringent and sometimes brutal in maintaining discipline within their order. Their internal code, governed by a set of rules known as the Latin Rule, was devised in 1129 and was both extensive and exacting. This code wasn't just about monastic routines or knightly duties, but was also a tool of rigid control. Templars who breached these rules faced harrowing consequences. For instance, deserters, those who fled the battlefield or abandoned their posts, were subject to severe penalties. As the Templar of Tyre, a 13th century chronicler, recorded, those guilty of desertion were forced to eat their meals on the floor, forbidden from joining their brethren at the communal table, a mark of deep shame in the monastic knightly culture. More severe offenses, such as killing a fellow Christian, would see a Templar confined, starved, and sometimes subjected to corporal punishment, often administered with relentless zeal. Such brutality wasn't just reserved for significant crimes. Minor transgressions, like speaking ill of a fellow Templar or revealing the Order's secrets, also invited harsh punitive measures. These internal disciplinary actions, while perhaps intended to maintain cohesion and order, often fell into the realm of cruelty, revealing a side of the Templars that stood in stark contrast to their professed piety. The horrors of siege warfare. Siege warfare emerges as another salient and often controversial aspect of their military engagements. Throughout the Crusades, the Templars found themselves not just in open battles, but also at the helm or the receiving end of extended sieges. These weren't merely strategic endeavors. They were grueling, ruthless, and often exacted a heavy toll on both the besiegers and the besieged. The Templars, well versed in the arts of war, employed a range of tactics during sieges. Towering siege engines, battering rams, and tunneling were common. Yet, the essence of siege warfare wasn't just about breaching walls, it was about breaking spirits. The prolonged nature of these sieges often led to starvation and diseases inside the besieged cities. As detailed in William of Tyre's Historia, even when victory was in sight, Templars and other crusading forces showed scant regard for the well-being of trapped civilians, who often bore the burden of these military engagements. Food shortages, collapsed buildings, and rampant disease were the dark underbelly of such warfare. In their relentless pursuit of territorial control and religious dominance, the Templars' involvement in sieges often blurred the lines between military necessity and outright cruelty, with the innocent populace caught in the crossfire. As we dive into the shadows behind the Templar shields, it becomes clear that history's warriors are often as complex as the times they lived in. But the question remains, were the Templars noble knights guided by faith, or merciless soldiers driven by ambition? This is History Uncharted. See you next time.